My wife's death was considered a suspicious death at the intensive care unit, and her death was recommended as a coroner case. And she was autopsied. For what? If the authorities to which I had written countless letters for more than 2 years only are based their findings and what is written in the page 2 of the post-mortem report. That is written that my wife died from a heart attack. All doctors involved in my wife's death know that it is not the truth and that it's not, and that is a despicable lie. And what is written on page 2 of the post-mortem report is the first impression of the forensic doctor based his information provided by the doctors that were implicated in my wife's death, and that they did not waste any time to give false information to the forensic doctor. They never wanted to investigate the autopsy results that are written on the interior pages of the post-mortem report that clearly say the following. Body of well-nourished adult female. Unlike what this professor wrote to the HCCC on the 28th of August 2008, cynically and despicably lying that my wife was anorexic, plus many other lies written in that letter. I have a copy of it. The whole body was edematous. The day she died, on 25/2/08, at 9:30 p.m. in my aunt's, on the same day at 12:30 p.m., she was taken for an echocardiogram, for an acute myocardial infarction, and the test was negative. Instead, fluid overloading was diagnosed. I was present, and the hematology team of doctors never pay attention to that result or never read even the report, nor did anything. The cardiac chamber seems to be normal and no signs of fibrosis or myocardial infarction. No thrombus identified for accrediting the heart attack. And if anyone cared to look on pages 7 and 8 of the post-mortem report, they could see that her heart was in fairly good shape. Lungs were severely congested and edematous, and there was no pulmonary thrombus. Found large petechial hemorrhages in the conjunctive of the lower eyelids, here and here, both eyes. Classic sign of death by strangulation, convicts hanging by neck to death, or a person by drowning, in accord to the Well of Forensic Science book. Respiratory system. There were 150 milligrams of hemoserous fluids in the right pleural cavity, and 200 milligrams of hemoserous fluid in the left pleural cavity, and no fluids in the stomach. That explains why my wife is dead by fluid overload and asphyxia. Gastrointestinal system. There was 800 milligrams of hemoserous fluids in the peritoneal cavity, and no fluids in the stomach. There was no urine in her bladder. It was dry, without a drop of urine. But unremarkable. It was found that her feet and hands were terrible swollen and edematous. And of that is on the post-mortem report, interior pages and much more. All that and lots of more from my wife's autopsy can be found in the interior pages of the post-mortem report that clearly demonstrates the real savage and uncontrolled care my wife received from this thing that caused her a massive fluid overload that was the cause of her premature death by asphyxiation or drowning. She didn't have a chance to survive with this savage treatment she received from these mobs. I am still waiting for someone to explain to me why in the morgue my wife's body weighed 62.5 kilos. And please, pay attention to this. If on the 21st, 4 days before her death, she was only 47 kilos, and she was near my mouth, not even water was allowed to her since the 18th, 7 days before she died. Or the doctors terminated her life. Of course, one oncologist professor that wrote to the coroner as an independent reporter, and another professor from the clinical governance, those two conciliators from the Health Conciliation Registry, those commissioners from the HCCC, to all of them that cynically, hypocritically, and indecently, knowing very well from where those extra 15.5 kilos had come from, do not have the decency or grace to recognize the huge and massive fluid overloaded all over my wife's body that was the principal cause of her death to my beloved wife by asphyxiation, because in both of her lungs there was no more air capacity or air space to breathe. Her lungs were inundated drop by drop daily, non-stop since the first day of admission, and they could not receive any more oxygen. They were flooded. This oxygen we all need to stay alive. I would like to ask the health commissioner that wrote to me that my wife's care was adequate. Could any of you give to your wives or any of your loved ones the treatment my wife had received? I could bet my life that you would not allow your wives or any of your loved ones to receive the same treatment as my wife received. How on earth that medical team did not try to bring my wife's albumin to a more normal levels, or at least to try? You all know albumin low levels as a treatable condition. Why not one doctor from this hematology unit ever tried to put my wife on a dialysis when there was plenty time to save her life? Why? When she was taken to the intensive care unit, she was already dead. There, they only tried to resuscitate her, and the ICU report is similar to the post-mortem report.